Life is a journey where you meet many people. Some become blessings, some become lessons. Trust is sacred. It is like giving someone the keys to your inner home. Once broken, it is not easy to rebuild. Many people suffer not because they are weak, but because they trusted the wrong people for too long. In ancient wisdom, it is said that not everyone who smiles is your well-wisher, and not everyone who questions you is your enemy. Maturity comes when you learn to observe actions more than words, patterns more than promises. Trust should be earned slowly, not gifted blindly. Some people enter our lives to test our patience, our boundaries, and our awareness. They teach us who to keep close and who to keep at a respectful distance. It is not about judging people. It is about protecting your peace, your values, and your future. When you trust the wrong person, you lose time, energy, confidence, and sometimes even your self-respect. Wisdom lies in knowing whom to trust, when to trust, and how much to trust. Let us understand the kinds of people we must be careful with, so our hearts remain kind but our minds remain strong. When someone speaks sweetly in front of you but criticizes you behind your back, they are not being polite, they are being strategic. Such people wear different masks depending on the situation. In your presence, they use kind words, appreciation, and agreement to win your trust. But the moment you are not around, their tone changes. They question your intentions, highlight your weaknesses, and sometimes even exaggerate your mistakes to look superior. This behavior does not come from honesty. It comes from insecurity and convenience. A person who truly respects you does not need two versions of their personality. Their words may be gentle or firm, but they remain consistent whether you are present or absent. On the other hand, the double-faced person adapts their behavior according to the audience. When they are with you, they want your approval. When they are with others, they want attention, validation, or advantage. In this process, loyalty becomes a flexible concept for them, changing according to what benefits them the most. Such people are dangerous not because they openly oppose you, but because they slowly damage your reputation. They plant seeds of doubt in others' minds while maintaining a friendly image with you. Over time, you may start noticing misunderstandings, sudden changes in behavior from others, or unexplained distance. Often the root cause is not visible because the person creating the damage pretends to be your supporter. Another painful aspect is that these individuals often justify their behavior by calling it honesty or just sharing opinions. But honesty has courage. It speaks directly, respectfully, and at the right time. Backbiting has no courage. It hides behind smiles and excuses. When someone truly cares, they address issues with you, not about you. They try to solve problems, not spread them. People who talk behind your back also observe how much they can get away with. If you ignore small signs, sarcastic comments, subtle comparisons, or indirect negativity, they slowly increase the intensity. What starts as casual remarks can turn into character attacks. This is why awareness is important. You do not need to confront everyone, but you must recognize patterns early. Trusting such people deeply can leave you emotionally confused. You may start doubting your intuition because their words in front of you feel kind, while situations around you feel uncomfortable. This inner conflict drains mental peace. Wisdom teaches us that peace is more valuable than approval. You do not need everyone to like you, but you do need clarity about who truly stands with you. Maintaining distance from such individuals does not mean becoming cold or rude. It means setting healthy boundaries. Share less personal information, reduce emotional dependence, and observe actions more than words. Over time, their true nature becomes clear without any confrontation. Life teaches us that loyalty is silent and consistent, while deception is loud and temporary. A person who speaks ill of others in your absence is already showing you how they will treat you tomorrow. Awareness protects your dignity, and self-respect teaches you whom to trust with your presence, your thoughts, and your heart. There are people who appear in your life only when they are struggling, confused, or in need of emotional or practical support. During those moments, they speak to you with urgency and affection, making you feel important and valued. You listen patiently, offer guidance, share your time, and sometimes even sacrifice your own priorities to help them stand again. But once their situation improves, their availability fades. Messages slow down, calls stop, and your presence is no longer required. This pattern is not accidental. It reveals how they measure relationships. Such people do not see connection as mutual. They see it as transactional. When life is heavy for them, they lean on you like a support pillar. When life becomes light again, they forget who held the weight with them. This behavior often comes from emotional immaturity, where gratitude is replaced by convenience. They do not intentionally plan to hurt you, but they lack the depth to sustain genuine bonds beyond their own needs. At first, this imbalance is difficult to notice because helping others feels natural to a kind heart. You may tell yourself that everyone is busy, that life gets in the way, or that expectations should be minimal. But over time, the pattern becomes clear. You are present in their storms, but they are absent in yours. When you need encouragement, understanding, or simply a listening ear, their responses are delayed or indifferent. This one-sided exchange slowly drains emotional energy. The deeper pain comes from feeling invisible once your usefulness ends. It creates confusion, making you question whether your support had meaning or if the relationship itself was real. This can lead to self-doubt, where you wonder if asking for care makes you needy or weak. In reality, mutual presence is not a demand. It is the foundation of any healthy relationship. Care should flow in both directions, even if not equally, but at least sincerely. People who disappear after their needs are met often justify themselves with busyness or distractions. But true connection does not require constant availability. It requires intention. A simple check-in, a message of concern, or remembering important moments speaks volumes. Absence becomes painful not because of distance, but because of indifference. When someone truly values you, they may be busy, but they are never careless about your place in their life. Learning to recognize this pattern is an act of self-respect. It does not mean closing your heart or refusing to help others. It means being aware of where you invest your emotional energy. Constantly giving to those who only take teachers in that your presence has no cost. Over time, this imbalance affects your inner peace and creates silent resentment. Healthy relationships are built on presence during both sunshine and storms. They may not solve your problems, but they show up with concern, honesty, and consistency. When someone is only around when they are struggling, they are not building a bond. They are borrowing comfort. Wisdom lies in understanding that your support is valuable and should be shared with those who recognize its worth, not only in their darkest moments, but also when your life needs light. There are people who may never openly wish for your failure, yet something inside them feels unsettled when you succeed. Their smiles become slower, their congratulations feel forced, and their enthusiasm fades the moment your growth becomes visible. They may not say anything negative directly, but silence itself becomes their language. This quiet discomfort is often more revealing than loud criticism because it comes from comparison rather than conflict. Such people usually begin as companions, colleagues, or even close friends. In the early stages, when everyone is struggling together, the bond feels equal. But as soon as your path starts moving forward, new opportunities, recognition, inner growth, the balance shifts. Your progress becomes a mirror reflecting what they believe they lack. Instead of inspiration, they feel insecurity. Instead of joy for you, they feel pressure within themselves. They may still remain around you, but the energy changes. They stop celebrating your milestones with genuine warmth. Conversations subtly turn competitive. Your achievements are minimized, explained away as luck, or quickly redirected towards someone else's success. At times, they may even bring up your past mistakes, not to help you grow, but to remind themselves that you are not too far ahead. This is not friendship. This is fear disguised as familiarity. What makes this situation emotionally confusing is that these people are not openly hostile. They do not attack you. They simply withdraw their support when you need it most. During your failures, they are present, offering advice and sympathy. But during your victories, their absence feels heavy. This creates a false sense of safety, making you believe they care, when in reality, they only feel comfortable around you when you are struggling. Envy often hides behind politeness. A person who envies you may still praise you in words, but their actions lack warmth. They may avoid talking about your success, change the subject, or suddenly become distant. This emotional withdrawal slowly affects your confidence, making you question whether celebrating your own progress is wrong. Over time, you may even start shrinking your happiness to keep others comfortable. True connection does not feel threatened by growth. Someone who genuinely cares may not fully understand your journey, but they will respect it. They will clap for you, even if they are still waiting for their own moment. They will ask questions with curiosity, not comparison. Not comparison. Their support will feel light, not heavy with hidden tension. It is important to understand that envy does not make someone evil. It makes them unprepared. They are fighting a silent battle within themselves. But awareness teaches us that empathy does not require self-sacrifice. You do not need to dim your light to protect someone else's insecurity. Growth is not arrogance, and success is not betrayal. Maintaining boundaries with such people is an act of emotional maturity. You can remain kind without sharing every achievement. You can remain respectful without expecting encouragement. Life becomes peaceful when you stop seeking validation from those who secretly compete with you. When someone feels uncomfortable with your success, they are revealing their inner struggle, not your mistake. And wisdom lies in walking forward with humility, clarity, and the courage to grow. Even if not everyone claps along the way, there are people who carry a constant sense of injustice within them. No matter what happens, they believe life has been unfair only to them. Every problem they face is someone else's fault. Every failure is caused by circumstances. And every conflict has a villain, but never them. At first, you may feel compassion for such individuals. You listen to their stories, comfort their pain, and try to help them find solutions. But slowly, a pattern begins to appear. They never take responsibility for their actions, and they never grow from their mistakes. People who constantly play the victim are not looking for solutions. They are looking for sympathy. Sympathy gives them attention without requiring change. When you suggest improvement or self-reflection, they feel attacked. Advice feels like criticism to them because it threatens the identity they have built around being wrong. Over time, you realize that no amount of support satisfies them because their pain has become their comfort zone. The danger of trusting such people lies in what happens when things go wrong between you and them. The same narrative they use for the world will eventually be used against you. In their story, they are always innocent, and someone else is always responsible. If a misunderstanding occurs, they will not seek clarity. They will seek validation from others by portraying themselves as hurt and misunderstood. This is how blame slowly shifts in your direction. Such individuals often avoid accountability because accountability demands courage. It requires admitting mistakes, learning lessons, and changing behavior. Instead, they repeat the same cycles, expecting different results. When outcomes do not improve, their sense of victimhood deepens. They begin to believe that effort is pointless, growth is impossible, and people cannot be trusted. This mindset becomes heavy not only for them, but also for those who stay close. Being around a constant victim can quietly affect your own thinking. You may start feeling guilty for things that are not your responsibility. You may begin walking on eggshells, afraid that honest conversations will hurt them. Over time, emotional exhaustion sets in. Relationships thrive on shared responsibility, but here, responsibility flows in only one direction, toward you. Another sign of this behavior is selective memory. They remember every instance where they felt hurt, but forget moments where others supported them. Gratitude rarely appears in their language. Growth rarely appears in their actions. Their stories remain the same year after year, with only the characters changing. This repetition reveals that the real problem was never external. Understanding this pattern is not about judging or abandoning people. It is about protecting emotional balance. Compassion without boundaries turns into self-neglect. You can care about someone's pain without carrying their blame. You can listen without accepting responsibility for their life choices. Trust requires emotional maturity on both sides. A person who refuses to take responsibility cannot be trusted with honesty because truth demands self-awareness. When accountability is missing, trust collapses. Recognizing this helps you step back with clarity rather than anger. Life becomes lighter when you choose relationships where growth is shared, mistakes are owned, and responsibility is embraced, not avoided. There are people who treat promises casually as if words are meant only to sound good in the moment. They agree easily, reassure quickly, and commit without hesitation. At first, this creates comfort and trust. You believe their words because they speak with confidence and warmth. But slowly, small cracks begin to appear. A call that was promised never comes. A task they agreed to handle is delayed without explanation. A meeting is forgotten, then laughed off as unimportant. Each instance seems minor, almost harmless, yet together they reveal a serious pattern. Small promises are not small in meaning. They are tests of reliability. When someone repeatedly breaks them, they are showing how much they value commitment, respect, and other people's time. Often, such individuals excuse themselves by saying they are busy, distracted, or overwhelmed. While everyone faces pressure, consistency reveals character. A person who truly values you may be busy, but they will communicate, adjust, or apologize sincerely. Repeated excuses without change signal indifference, not circumstances. People who break small promises often underestimate their impact. They may not intend to hurt you, but their behavior slowly erodes trust. Trust is not destroyed in one dramatic moment. It fades quietly through repeated disappointments. Each broken promise plants a seed of doubt. Over time, you stop relying on them. You lower expectations. You prepare backup plans. And without realizing it, the relationship loses its strength. Another danger lies in emotional confusion. Because the promises are small, you may feel uncomfortable addressing them. You might tell yourself that confronting them would be petty or demanding. This self-silencing builds internal frustration. Respectful relationships allow space for accountability. When you cannot express disappointment without feeling guilty, imbalance is already formed. People who cannot keep small commitments often struggle with discipline and self-awareness. They live in the present moment, saying what feels right now without considering future responsibility. When bigger situations arise, moments that require sacrifice, loyalty, or courage, their history has already shown how they will respond. If they cannot honor a simple word, expecting them to honor a serious responsibility becomes risky. Broken promises also affect self-worth. When someone repeatedly fails to show up for you, you may start questioning your importance in their life. This silent doubt can damage confidence and create emotional distance. Healthy connections should make you feel secure, not uncertain. Learning from such patterns requires emotional maturity. It does not mean becoming harsh or unforgiving. It means recognizing that words and actions must align. Reliability is a form of respect. When it is missing, affection alone cannot sustain trust. Distance in this case is not punishment, it is protection. You begin to rely more on yourself and those who have shown consistency. Life teaches us that trust should not be built on hope, but on evidence. A person who repeatedly breaks small promises is unknowingly revealing their limits. Observing those limits early saves you from greater disappointment later, when the stakes are higher and the cost is heavier. There are people who encourage shortcuts when the path feels difficult. They speak in a convincing tone, making dishonesty sound practical and unethical choices seem harmless. They tell you that everyone does it, that the world is unfair anyway, and that bending the rules is the only way to move ahead. In moments of pressure or uncertainty, such voices can feel comforting because they offer quick relief from struggle. But beneath that comfort lies a dangerous absence of responsibility. People who push you toward shortcuts are often focused on immediate gain, not long-term consequence. They see success as an outcome, not a process. Integrity, patience, and effort feel slow to them, so they choose speed over stability. What they rarely mention is that shortcuts always come with hidden costs. When consequences appear, and they always do, these people quietly step back, leaving you alone to face the results of decisions they helped influence. Such individuals often distance themselves from accountability. When things go well, they may take credit or enjoy shared benefits. But when something goes wrong, their support disappears. They suddenly become silent, unavailable, or even judgmental. In those moments, you realize that their advice was never about your well-being. It was about convenience. True guidance stands with you not only in success, but also in responsibility. The emotional danger of trusting such people is subtle. They slowly weaken your inner compass. Repeated exposure to unethical thinking makes right and wrong feel flexible. You begin to justify actions you once questioned. This inner conflict creates restlessness because peace comes from alignment between values and actions. When that alignment breaks, guilt and anxiety take its place, even if outward success appears intact. People who encourage dishonesty often lack courage themselves. often lack courage. They want results without effort, respect without character, and rewards without discipline. Instead of building strength, they avoid struggle. When challenges demand resilience and accountability, they look for escape routes. This is why they cannot be relied upon in difficult times. Standing by someone during consequences requires bravery, and they have already shown their discomfort with it. Another sign is how they speak about others. They normalize manipulation, mock honesty, and admire cleverness over character. In their stories, people who succeed ethically are called naive, while those who exploit systems are praised as smart. Listening too long to such narratives slowly reshapes perception. You may start doubting whether honesty still matters in the world, forgetting that trust, reputation, and inner peace are built only through integrity. Wisdom teaches that the right path may be slow, but it is stable. When you choose effort over shortcuts, you build confidence that does not depend on fear. You sleep peacefully because you owe no explanations and carry no hidden weight. People who truly care about you will never push you toward actions that risk your dignity, freedom, or future. Trust should be placed in those who encourage growth, not compromise. A person who values your life will advise patience over panic, honesty over haste, and courage over convenience. Learning to recognize voices that pull you away from your values is an act of self-respect. The path may become harder in the moment, but it becomes lighter in the long run. Because integrity always protects you when no one else does. There are people whose presence feels heavy even when they say nothing openly negative. After spending time with them, your energy feels lower, your motivation weakens, and your thoughts become clouded with doubt. They may not insult you directly, but their words, tone, and reactions quietly diminish your spirit. Such people drain energy not through loud criticism, but through subtle discouragement that slowly settles into the mind. These individuals often disguise their negativity as concern or realism. When you share a dream, they quickly point out the risks, the failures of others, and the reasons it may not work. They call it being practical, but their focus is never balanced. They rarely acknowledge effort, growth, possibility. Over time, the constant emphasis on limitations makes you question your own capabilities. What once felt exciting begins to feel foolish. People who belittle dreams often do so because they have abandoned their own. Watching someone else pursue growth reminds them of paths they did not take. Instead of reflecting inward, they project outward. They may laugh at ambition, mock discipline, or dismiss self-improvement as unnecessary. Their comfort lies in sameness, and your desire to evolve disrupts that comfort. The danger of trusting such people lies in the gradual erosion of self-worth. Repeated exposure to discouragement creates inner resistance. You start hesitating before sharing ideas. You begin shrinking your goals to avoid judgment. Without realizing it, you adjust your dreams to fit someone else's limited vision. The silent compromise costs more than open failure because it happens slowly and without awareness. Another painful aspect is emotional invalidation. When you feel excited, they respond with indifference. When you feel uncertain, they amplify fear instead of offering support. This imbalance creates loneliness even within connection. True support does not require full understanding of your dream. It requires respect for your courage to pursue it. Energy-draining individuals often maintain control by keeping others uncertain. When you doubt yourself, you rely more on their opinions. This dynamic gives them a sense of importance while limiting your independence. Over time, this dependence weakens inner confidence and delays growth. Protecting yourself does not mean cutting everyone off or becoming defensive. It means observing how you feel after interactions. Energy is honest. If someone consistently leaves you feeling smaller, quieter, or unsure of yourself, their influence deserves distance. Healthy relationships should energize, not exhaust. There is wisdom in surrounding yourself with people who may challenge you, but still believe in you. They question to strengthen, not to discourage. They point out flaws with care, not superiority. Their presence feels grounding, not draining. Life becomes lighter when you stop explaining your dreams to those committed to misunderstanding them. Self-worth grows when you choose environments that nurture courage instead of fear. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is necessary. When your inner world is strong, you can move forward with clarity, resilience, and quiet confidence, regardless of who understands your journey. There are people who speak endlessly about others, sharing stories, secrets, and opinions as if they are offering you trust. At first, it may feel like closeness. You may believe they are opening up, including you in their inner circle. But gossip is never a sign of connection. It is a warning. A person who talks about others to you is showing you how they handle information, emotions, and loyalty. Such individuals often present gossip as concern or entertainment. They say they are only sharing the truth, helping you stay informed or protecting you from others. But the way they speak reveals something deeper. They enjoy the attention that comes from having information. They feel powerful when they control narratives. What they rarely consider is the damage caused by spreading half stories, assumptions, or private matters that were never meant to be shared. The most important truth about gossipers is consistency. Their behavior does not change based on the audience. Only the subject does. Today they speak about someone else, tomorrow they will speak about you. Trusting them with personal thoughts, vulnerabilities, or plans is risky because they lack the discipline to keep things private. Confidentiality requires restraint, and gossip thrives on the absence of it. Over time, being around constant gossip affects your own mindset. Conversations become focused on people rather than growth. Judgment replaces understanding. You may start forming opinions about others without knowing the full truth. This mental clutter creates unnecessary negativity and distracts from your own progress. Peaceful minds do not need constant stories about others. Another hidden danger is how gossip shapes perception. When someone repeatedly criticizes others, they slowly normalize negativity. This makes it easier for them to justify speaking poorly about you when circumstances change. Disagreements, misunderstandings, or jealousy can quickly turn into stories that travel without your knowledge, damaging relationships and reputations. People who gossip often avoid addressing issues directly. Instead of honest conversations, they choose indirect expression. This prevents resolution and encourages division. Problems grow larger because they are discussed everywhere except where they belong. Trust cannot exist where clarity is missing. Distance from such behavior does not require confrontation. It requires awareness and choice. You can gently shift conversations, avoid sharing personal information, and reduce emotional exposure. Over time, the lack of fuel causes gossip to fade. Healthy relationships are built on respect and discretion. They allow space for honest dialogue without involving unnecessary voices. A trustworthy person speaks to resolve, not to entertain. They protect dignity even when others are absent. When you stop engaging in gossip, life becomes quieter and clearer. Energy is no longer wasted on stories that do not serve growth. Choosing silence over gossip is choosing peace over drama. It reflects strength, maturity, and self-respect. Trust grows only in environments where words are used carefully and hearts are guarded with wisdom. There are people who show respect only when you are useful to them. They praise your skills, admire your success, and invest time in your company, but all of it comes with an invisible condition: your value to them. The moment you no longer serve a purpose, whether emotionally, socially, or professionally, their attention fades. This type of relationship is not built on genuine care. It is transactional, based on what they can gain rather than what they can share. At first, it may feel flattering to be appreciated and supported. You may think, they understand me or they care about me, but over time, patterns emerge. Invitations disappear, calls go unanswered, and encouragement becomes scarce. You notice that when you are thriving, busy, or self-sufficient, they are nowhere to be found. This is not coincidence. It is consistency revealing intention. People who value you only for your utility often create a subtle imbalance. When you are available to help, mentor, or entertain them, their interest is high. When you need support or take time for yourself, their presence diminishes. This selective attention is emotionally taxing because it teaches you to measure your worth by usefulness rather than by inherent value. Relationships should provide safety, not conditional validation. The danger lies in how this behavior erodes self-awareness and boundaries. You may begin to overextend yourself to maintain approval. You may compromise personal priorities just to remain valuable in someone's eyes. Over time, this dynamic creates resentment, fatigue, and even self-doubt. You start questioning whether genuine care exists or if all affection comes with an expectation. Another subtle aspect is manipulation. People who engage in transactional relationships often cloak it in charm or flattery. They make you feel needed, important, or special until their needs change. Emotional dependence grows quietly, and when they withdraw, it leaves a void. The pain is not only in absence, but in the realization that your trust was conditional. Recognizing this pattern is an act of maturity. It requires observing actions over words. True respect and care remain consistent regardless of convenience. People who see your worth only in terms of their gain are unlikely to stand by you when you face challenges that do not serve them. Trust placed in them is fragile because it depends on circumstances, not values. Protecting yourself from such relationships is not selfish. It is wisdom. You can maintain civility and kindness without exposing your deepest thoughts, feelings, or energy. Boundaries are essential to ensure that trust is given where it belongs, to people whose care is consistent, authentic, and unconditional. Life becomes lighter when you surround yourself with those who value you for who you are, not for what you can provide. Mutual respect builds strength, confidence, and security. It nurtures growth rather than dependence. Choosing awareness over blind trust ensures that your heart is invested wisely. Ultimately, understanding this type of person teaches a critical life lesson. Relationships are not just about closeness, but about consistency, respect, and integrity. When you recognize those who value you only for utility, you protect your energy, preserve your self-worth, and create space for connections that honor you fully without conditions or hidden agendas. Trust is one of the most delicate and powerful forces in life, and placing it blindly can cost more than we realize. Blind trust assumes that everyone has the same values, intentions, and awareness as we do. It assumes that people will act with honesty, integrity, and consistency without ever being tested. Unfortunately, life does not operate on assumptions. Trust, like any investment, requires observation, discernment, and patience. Giving it blindly often leads to disappointment, betrayal, or unnecessary emotional pain. When we trust without awareness, we hand over a part of ourselves, our secrets, vulnerabilities, emotions, and energy to someone who may not value it equally. They might misuse it, betray it, or simply discard it when convenient. This is not about cynicism, it is about self-preservation. The world is full of lessons, and one of the earliest lessons of maturity is learning how to place trust wisely. Trust is not a gift to be handed indiscriminately. It is a privilege to be earned. Blind trust also leads to overdependence. When we assume that everyone will be honest and consistent, we may rely on them for emotional support, guidance, or decision-making. When they fail to meet our expectations, the emotional impact is deep because we were unprepared for the possibility of disappointment. Self-awareness and observation act as a safeguard. By giving trust gradually, we allow relationships to prove their stability before investing completely. Another danger is that blind trust encourages manipulation. People who recognize that you trust without question may exploit it. They may ask for favors, share half-truths, or influence decisions in ways that benefit them but compromise your well-being. They may never openly harm you, but subtle manipulation erodes confidence and peace. Awareness does not mean distrust. It means observing actions over words and noticing patterns rather than relying on promises alone. Blind trust also slows personal growth. When we assume people will always act correctly, we may avoid asking questions, confronting uncomfortable truths, or setting boundaries. These moments are vital for building discernment, self-respect, and emotional resilience. Trusting blindly without learning from interactions deprives us of valuable insight about human behavior and the dynamics of relationships. Life teaches that trust is a reflection of maturity, not innocence. It grows slowly, nurtured by consistent behavior, honesty, and integrity. People who demonstrate reliability over time deserve deeper trust. Those who repeatedly break promises, act selfishly, or reveal inconsistency cannot be fully trusted, at least until patterns change. Awareness ensures that trust is grounded in reality, not wishful thinking. Protecting yourself from blind trust is not about closing off your heart or becoming suspicious. It is about pacing your confidence and observing before fully committing emotionally. Small steps, cautious sharing, and attention to actions rather than words allow relationships to grow in strength and authenticity. Trust becomes more valuable because it is intentional, not automatic. Ultimately, blind trust is risky because it assumes the world should mirror our intentions. Life does not guarantee fairness, honesty, or loyalty, but it does reward awareness. discernment, and careful observation. By learning whom to trust, when to trust, and how much to trust, we preserve our energy, maintain inner peace, and build connections that are resilient and meaningful. Trust wisely and you protect the most valuable part of yourself, your heart. There are people who disguise their intentions behind charm, flattery, or exaggerated kindness. At first, their presence feels uplifting, their compliments feel genuine, and their attention feels special. You may feel lucky to have met someone so caring or supportive, but over time, subtle signs begin to appear, small inconsistencies in their words, actions that don't match their promises, or patterns that suggest their interest is conditional. Charm is easy to give, but consistent character is much harder to sustain. When the two are not aligned, it is a warning sign that trust must be earned slowly. People who hide their true intentions behind a charm are often strategic. They have learned that kindness, flattery, or attention can influence others, gain favor, and create dependency. They observe your reactions, your desires, and your weaknesses, and use this knowledge to position themselves advantageously. At first, this may not seem harmful. In fact, their energy may feel motivating or inspiring, but underneath there is a self-serving purpose. What seems like encouragement may actually be manipulation, designed to influence your choices or emotions for their benefit. The danger of trusting such individuals lies in how subtle their tactics are. They rarely act with overt negativity. Instead, they create situations where your guard is lowered. You share personal stories, aspirations, or fears because their responses feel supportive. Meanwhile, they quietly collect information, shaping opinions or narratives that may later serve their advantage. This behavior erodes trust gradually, making it difficult to recognize until patterns are well established. Another critical point is that charm can mask inconsistency. Over time, this can teach you an important but painful lesson. Loyalty is revealed not in easy moments, but in moments of difficulty. Another consequence is that these individuals often create an environment where you adjust your behavior to maintain their approval. You may avoid showing vulnerability, sharing concerns, or seeking help, fearing that doing so will reveal their lack of true support. This silent compromise can slowly erode your confidence, making you cautious in all relationships. People who only stand by you when convenient may also struggle with empathy. True empathy requires effort, listening actively, prioritizing another's needs, and offering consistent support even when it is challenging. Those who withdraw during difficult moments demonstrate that their compassion is superficial. They may genuinely care for your happiness in the abstract, but their willingness to engage practically or emotionally is limited. Recognizing these patterns is essential for emotional resilience. You do not need to confront or condemn such people, but awareness allows you to protect your energy. By observing who is consistently present, who prioritizes your well-being over convenience, and who shows patience and effort during hard times, you can place trust in a more discerning way. Ultimately, life teaches that true support is measured by consistency and sacrifice, not mere words or appearances. People who only appear in easy times reveal the limits of their loyalty. By focusing on those who remain when circumstances are difficult, you nurture relationships built on authenticity, respect, and genuine care. Trust wisely, and you will surround yourself with individuals who value your presence, honor your challenges, and walk beside you not only in moments of triumph, but also in moments of trial. There are people who demand your attention, loyalty, or emotional energy without ever giving the same in return. They expect you to be available, supportive, and understanding whenever they need, but they rarely reciprocate. At first, the requests may feel normal. After all, relationships require give and take. But over time, the imbalance becomes apparent. They take endlessly, offer little, and act as if your time, effort, and emotions are theirs to control. People who expect constant availability often view relationships as tools rather than connections. They assume that your presence is a resource to be drawn upon, not a gift to be respected. When you respond, help, or comfort them, it reinforces their belief that you exist to serve their needs, The problem is not that they ask for help occasionally, but that they never pause to consider whether their demands are fair or sustainable. Over time, this pattern becomes emotionally exhausting. The danger of such relationships lies in how subtly they erode self-respect. Initially, You may feel pride in being supportive, loyal, or dependable. You may tell yourself that caring for them is part of being a good friend, partner, or colleague. But when effort is always one-sided, resentment quietly builds. You may feel frustration, fatigue, or even guilt for wanting balance. These emotions signal that boundaries are being crossed, even if the other person is unaware. People who demand constant attention rarely notice your limits. They interrupt personal time, override priorities, or dismiss your needs as secondary. They may express disappointment, anger, or manipulation when you are unavailable. In doing so, they teach you to prioritize their convenience over your well-being. Well-being. Over time, this subtle pressure can diminish your confidence in asserting personal boundaries. Another challenge is that such individuals often fail to recognize gratitude. Your sacrifices, patience, and effort are taken for granted. Praise or acknowledgement is rare because they consider your loyalty is expected, not exceptional. When recognition is absent, relationships feel transactional rather than reciprocal. You begin to question whether your efforts are valued at all. This pattern also affects emotional energy. Constantly responding to someone else's demands leaves little room for self-reflection, growth, or personal priorities. You may find yourself drained, anxious, or preoccupied with meeting their needs instead of focusing on your own life. The imbalance is subtle, but over months or years, it can undermine your mental and emotional health. Protecting yourself from such people requires awareness and boundaries. It does not mean being harsh, rude, or unkind. It means understanding that your energy is finite and relationships should allow for mutual respect. You can support others without losing yourself in the process. Setting limits, reducing emotional overextension, and prioritizing those who show reciprocity are acts of wisdom and self-respect. Ultimately, life teaches that relationships must be balanced to thrive. Those who demand without giving reveal their priorities and values. Trust and closeness are earned not only through words, but through consistent, reciprocal effort. By recognizing and managing such dynamics, you protect your heart, preserve your energy, and create space for connections that are genuine, supportive, and sustainable. Being aware of these individuals does not mean closing your heart to others. It means choosing carefully who deserves your time, attention, and loyalty. True connection is never one-sided. It grows in a space where care, respect, and presence are shared. By observing, setting boundaries, and prioritizing mutual respect, you ensure that your trust, energy, and emotional investment are honored rather than exploited. There are people who demand your attention, loyalty, or emotional energy without ever giving the same in return. They expect you to be available, supportive, and understanding whenever they need, but they rarely reciprocate. At first, their requests may feel normal. After all, relationships require give and take. But over time, the imbalance becomes apparent. They take endlessly, offer little, and act as if your time, effort, and emotions are theirs to control. People who expect constant availability often view relationships as tools rather than connections. They assume that your presence is a resource to be drawn upon, not a gift to be respected. When you respond, help, or comfort them, it reinforces their belief that you exist to serve their needs. The problem is not that they ask for help occasionally, but that they never pause to consider whether their demands are fair or sustainable. Over time, this pattern becomes emotionally exhausting. The danger of such relationships lies in how subtly they erode self-respect. Initially, you may feel pride in being supportive, loyal, or dependable. You may tell yourself that caring for them is part of being a good friend, partner, or colleague. But when effort is always one-sided, resentment quietly builds. You may feel frustration, fatigue, or even guilt for wanting balance. These emotions signal that boundaries are being crossed even if the other person is unaware. People who demand constant attention rarely notice your limits. They interrupt personal time, override priorities, or dismiss your needs as secondary. They may express disappointment, anger, or manipulation when you are unavailable. In doing so, they teach you to prioritize their convenience over your well-being. Over time, this subtle pressure can diminish your confidence in asserting personal boundaries. Another challenge is that such individuals often fail to recognize gratitude. Your sacrifices, patience, and effort are taken for granted. Praise or acknowledgement is rare because they consider your loyalty as expected, not exceptional. When recognition is absent, relationships feel transactional rather than reciprocal. You begin to question whether your efforts are valued at all. This pattern also affects emotional energy. Constantly responding to someone else's demands leaves little room for self-reflection, growth, or personal priorities. You may find yourself drained, anxious, or preoccupied with meeting their needs instead of focusing on your own life. The imbalance is subtle, but over months or years, it can undermine your mental and emotional health. Protecting yourself from such people requires awareness and boundaries. It does not mean being harsh, rude, or unkind. It means understanding that your energy is finite, and relationships should allow for mutual respect. You can support others without losing yourself in the process. Setting limits, reducing emotional overextension, and prioritizing those who show reciprocity are acts of wisdom and self-respect. Ultimately, life teaches that relationships must be balanced to thrive. Those who demand without giving reveal their priorities and values. Trust and closeness are earned not only through words but through consistent, reciprocal effort. By recognizing and managing such dynamics, you protect your heart, preserve your energy, and create space for connections that are genuine, supportive, and sustainable. Being aware of these individuals does not mean closing your heart to others. It means choosing carefully who deserves your time, attention, and loyalty. True connection is never one-sided. It grows in a space where care, respect, and presence are shared. By observing, setting boundaries, and prioritizing mutual respect, you ensure that your trust, energy, and emotional investment are honored rather than exploited.